Okay, I will call the Southbury Board of Selectmen regular meeting to order, December 1st, 2022, Southbury Town Hall, room 205 at 7 PM. And if we could have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is public comment. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes. If somebody wants to make a public comment, they're welcome to come up and make that comment now. If it could be limited to 2 minutes.
Hi, how are you?
Is that?
Working? No? Yes? Maybe? Yeah? All right, perfect. So, my name's Tim Federowitz. I apologize for having to bother you with this issue. Seems trivial to me, but I don't really have any other options. My sons, one was signed up for the third grade basketball league, one was a second grader, which I signed him up for, and then I was told that he would not be able to play because of his grade. I appealed the process, tried to communicate it over the phone, as simple as that. Was told that I had to come down in person on Monday, took the day off from work, came down at 2 o'clock, met with the director of Parks and Rec, Michael Ganem. I spoke to him, went over the issues. There was none stated by him, said I would have to speak in front of the committee members, and if I provided from the school a documentation stating he could be in third grade based on his age, he would be allowed to play. So I went to the school, filed all the appropriate paperwork, went tonight to actually speak, was not on the agenda, only got public comment, and basically got shooed out of the room and told that I would only be able to get an answer in their next meeting, which, just so we all know, is the season's over. I would love to request a meeting with any of you individuals to help me sort this out before the season is over. The season starts on this coming Saturday. I appreciate your time. I'm sorry it has to be something so silly, but there's nothing else I could do to get this to be approved. And as a parent of 4, timing for me with my kids is very important, and being able to bring them at the same time to a sporting event when one of my kids is of age is what I'm asking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Hi, Sarah Field Jones. Southbury is a community with a population made up of 90.4% white people. 90% of these households have at least one computer present, and 84.6% have broadband internet. Why do I know that? Because it is a way that the initiative I am about to speak about wants to infiltrate our homes. Recently, WLM hand-delivered propaganda in our community and left stickers defacing our public restroom in the park across from Gainfield Elementary School. According to the 26-page WLM activist manual, they are pro-white and made up of anonymous individuals to defend the interests of white people and are looking to raise consciousness and spread the love of quote-unquote their folk through real-life action. The manual explains that if it helps the interests of white people, they are for it. If not, they are against it. Normally, I would not agree to give public spotlight to such initiatives, but I am deeply concerned about our Southbury. While some may see this as freedom of speech, these types of initiatives incite hate crimes. We all saw this on January 6th. WLM is seeking white majority, which they identify as a minimum of 99% white at all times of all age groups. The 1% non-white could represent people temporarily inhabiting the land for purposes that serve the interests of white people, defined as tourism and trade. The initiative has made its way into Southbury. Keeping in mind the statistics quoted above, Southbury does not meet the requirements put forth by this initiative to keep us out of their view. I urge you to act swiftly. I am most disappointed and disheartened by my neighbors and town leaders who have not publicly said Southbury is anti-racist. I respectfully request that the Board of Selectmen work in unison with the Community Relations Task Force, the Board of Ed, Board of Finance, Republican Town Committee, and Democratic Town Committee, and all local organizations, both big and small, to place visuals in all of our public spaces. Send a letter to the 8,000 homes in Southbury saying that hate has no home here. Reassure me that my children and family are safe here. Help me know that my biracial child is welcome in Southbury. I love this town, and I love what we have stood for in the past when we said no to the Nazis. Thank you for your time and your dedication in our little corner of the universe.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Jasenia Rivera-Sutter.
I'm a mother, an attorney, a wife, and a proud resident of the Southbury community. My family and I moved to Southbury after researching quite a few towns in this region. We settled on Southbury because of its great schools and beautiful neighborhoods, but also because of the community of people who live here. My husband and I want the same things for ourselves and our children that I'm sure many of you here do as well. We want them to attend great schools, to take part in sports and town-sponsored activities, but most of all, we want them to feel that they are supported by this beautiful community. For the most part, our transition to Southbury has been smooth. Our children have adapted well to new schools and a new environment totally different from the big city we came from. We have been overwhelmed by the kindness and hospitality of this community, and I have made many friends, some of whom are here today. However, in the last year, I have felt a darkness creeping into this town that really worries me. My son has been called the N-word at least 3 different occasions. Other school children who I know have been racially targeted in a very cruel and hurtful manner. And more recently, hateful speech and racist and anti-LGBTQ propaganda has been left on the doorsteps of our neighbors and near the playgrounds where my small children play. As a mother of 3 Black and Latino children, I'm raising them to learn important values, to work hard to achieve their goals, to be proud of their diverse culture, to be kind human beings. But my husband and I also have the responsibility of readying them for the realities of living in a society amid racism. I'm here today because I need your help. As the leadership of this community, I look to you to stand up against this hateful rhetoric. We look to you to protect this town's integrity and to protect the innocence of my children and the other children that live in this community. I ask that the leadership make a statement denouncing this disturbing trend of white supremacy attempting to infiltrate our town, and to let them know that hate has no home in Southbury. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Good evening. Randolph Richardson, I'm a resident of Southbury. Martin Luther King Jr. said, in the end, we will remember not the words of our friends, but the silence of our, but not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Southbury friends, we must not remain silent. NBC Connecticut aired a story tonight at 5 o'clock. The title of the story was, Southbury is the latest community targeted with supremacist literature. That literature said 2 things. Left in a sticker on in the wall of the porta potty across from Gainfield said, race mixing is white genocide. Stop killing white people. A flyer circulated among the Southbury neighborhood said, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. White lives matter. Many Southbury residents say hate has no home here. Well, hate wants a home here, and we need to kick it out. Because where hate is loud, love must not be silent.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to announcements and correspondence. You have that in your packet. If you could, if you want to take this, just call me tomorrow. Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, have a second? Okay, John, thank you. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and it passes. Minutes of November 7th, 2022 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. John, second. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, it carries. Next up is health, unfinished business is the health department options. Dan couldn't be here, but John has graciously offered to come in and go over the health department options that we may want to discuss. Betsy, do you have the spreadsheets? Don't do the spreadsheets. Okay.
They're there, we're proud of them, they support the memo we've written. It's been, for this past year, Finance and the first selectman, and to some extent the Board of Selectmen, have been dealing with the financial relationship we have with our health district. That is a very long story. Members of the Board of Finance are very concerned about the relationship. And we believe it's time to find a new partner. So what are the options? This outlines, I'm not going to read it, it's there for you to read. At the bottom, there is a summary of what we are looking at. Oh, that summary isn't there. This doesn't seem to be, oh, this is the memo, not the email. Okay. Let me do it this way. Currently, we have many options concerning health services in Southbury. We can stay with our current district. We can join another district. Torrington is one that our neighbor Middlebury joins in. There is a health district to our, I think it's west, Newtown, that we have not invited us to join, but they are a neighboring town. They have a health district that is well regarded, and it is one of the things we are looking at as an option. We could bring the health district, reconstitute a health district with ourselves in Woodbury and Oxford, the old health district. We are talking to them about that. They have, their first select persons have indicated varying levels of interest. Varying levels of interest. That is an option. We could bring it in-house. I think I said we could bring it in-house ourselves. There are problems with every one of these issues, pluses and minuses. The timing is an issue. In order for us to leave the current district, the Board of Selectmen will have to make that notification to the district by December 30th. I just learned tonight, and I'm giving a fire hose education on health district issues, that maybe we don't have to join a health district. We could engage with a health district, some other health district, to provide services for us, even if we're not a member. At what cost, I don't know. There's a lot going on. What we wanted to do, the three of us, Jeff, Dan, and myself, this and the spreadsheets, and there was an email too, you probably ought to circulate, because it had a little summary at the bottom about pluses and minuses about the options we had been looking at. What we want to do is put the Board of Selectmen on notice that, one, budget time is coming. We have a hard deadline of December 31st to leave the existing region, give them notice, and provide some way starting in July for you to take care of your statutory responsibility, provide health services in Southbury. That's where we are. I would encourage you to look at the spreadsheets if you're so inclined. Dan and I were more than happy to answer questions about how we came up with what we think the per capita costs would be to the town. Jeff has shared with me that, and I concur, that the costs, there are a varying level of costs, but when it comes to health services in Southbury, cost is not the driving factor. It's important. It's not unimportant. But where can we get the quality health services we're required to have by statute, you're required to provide for the town, to provide a high-quality, reliable service. What we might end up doing could cost us a little more than it costs us now. But we don't know. We're still working on all of this. We hope to have more information for you at your next meeting in 2 weeks about what your options are. So I'd be happy. I imagine you guys haven't studied all that stuff. You've got enough to do. But Dan and I are available at any time to go over the spreadsheets that show how we develop the costs, what the
I assume wow, that's very loud. I assume that our contributions to our current health district, it would be prorated for 2023 just to July. It's not, we don't pay them annually for the full year,
As I understand it, you join for a year,
right?
and you pay your contribution, and during that year, the health district provides the services.
Mm-hmm.
You must give notice no later than 6 months before the beginning of the new year that you don't want to be in a district, if you are in one.
So the services would still be available to the residents of Southbury for the duration of 2023?
Oh, yes, absolutely, we're in the district.
Correct, okay.
Absolutely.
Until
Okay.
July 1st.
Until July
Till
1st,
July
no question, whether we give notice or not. If you give notice and say, as of July 1st, you want to do something different,
Mhm.
we are still part of the district for 6 months, and they will provide the services. That's
Mhm.
how I understand it works, yes.
Okay, and we're only going, but we will be making a full year's contribution?
It mimics our fiscal year,
It's our fiscal year.
which ends,
I'm missing the question.
Our
if
contribution,
we pull out in July, we have 6 months that we paid for that we don't use, but it mimics our fiscal year.
Oh, no,
Got
I'm
it,
sorry.
okay,
It is the
understood.
Fiscal year.
Very good.
I'm new to hearing aids. For many years, I finally succumbed. It don't work as great as people say it do.
And I'm pretty new to finding new health districts, so not my forte either.
so yes, we are currently paying the health district monthly, and we will pay them through the end of, till the new fiscal year. And then starting the new fiscal year, July 1st, whatever we do, there will be a bill, if they go up in the rates and we're still with them, that will be our contribution starting July 1st.
Very good.
As to economics, as a point of interest, last year when we did the budget for this year we're in right now, the Board of Finance couldn't believe that the budget that the Housatonic Valley gave to us was reasonable. So we put in an amount of money that is equal to the prior year, and that is $48,000 less than what we are obliged to pay. So you will be getting from us a request for a transfer from the general fund to cover the extra $48,000. We were unsuccessful in the first, from budget time last year till July 31st, in getting the district to change their budgeting practices. So we're obliged to pay. There'll be a town meeting for an extra $48,000. We are charged, the Board of Finance is very much concerned about this whole thing. That's why I'm here at the Board of Finance. We usually don't do this stuff, but this is important. Money's important, but also the level of service. Any other questions?
So I think go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to ask, we all got the spreadsheets and the memo and whatnot, and it shows the varying per capita estimates for the different changes. If we go to different health districts, we do our own, bring back the, PhD. The money aside and coming up with those numbers about staffing and whatnot, has there been any discussion of if we were to form our own health district or reformulate Pomperaug, like space, location, like infrastructure, like that sort of stuff?
At the bottom left-hand corner of one of the spreadsheets is a pro forma initial cost to get back to form our own district. There it is. See, there's a lot of stuff here. I think.
Oh, there it is.
I'm not sure which spread, let's see, go down even far. Gotta make it just a little bigger. My eyes are going too. Yes. Oh, we gotta spread that column E, there you go. We had, if we reformed the district ourselves, we figured we would need the same assets that the district we were in before had. And there is the balance sheet of what we thought we would need to start up. $479,000. So one time, $11.12 per capita, depending on if all these estimates are correct. And then if we were to join, if the old members to the right, column H-I-N-J, Woodbury, Oxford, and Southbury with the population shown. If we were to reform with those people, there's the breakdown of the costs, what it would cost on a population basis by town. So yes, you've got the pro forma. They'd all have to agree. Whether or not Oxford and Woodbury would want to do that, we don't know. They have options just like we do. Southbury's share of that was it's in the spreadsheet someplace, trust me.
Southbury's share of what, John?
Southbury's share of the $479,000, probably about little over half, because we're 19,000 out of 43,000 total. So of the 479,000, we'd probably be, half of that is what, 240, maybe $250,000, one time. And a 3-month loan for working capital, I would assume that over time, as the old district built up its surplus, its working capital as a district, the one-time loans to us would be paid back. But that's an accounting thing you can debate. And accounting people like to talk about that stuff, but it really isn't important. So, yes, there is a budget for what it would cost for us to get back in. I think that was the question.
Back,
Thanks, Joe.
if you want, any other questions of John right now?
I don't think I have questions for John. I did get a chance to glance at everything, and as usual, it's very well done, and the numbers are there. You know, we mentioned briefly when we walked in, you know, my first question is, if we give notice that we want out, can we go back in? In case that ends up being the best option, or who knows, maybe if we opt out, we start to get a little bit better communication channel opened up with the people that we're trying to work with.
To that point, we have been advised by former First Selectman Mark Cooper, who's currently the health director in Weston, who has forgotten more about this stuff than combined knowledge of everyone in this room, except maybe Jason.
No, I call Mark too on these things.
I learn things every day. Every time I talk to him, there are a lot of options, 2 options that I didn't even know about, that I found out about tonight. We may be able to officially leave, but then get back in. And I don't know, we're gonna have to talk town attorney to find out how that works. And we will do that. Also, I understand from a very short conversation that the town can contract for its health services through a qualified organization, but not be a member of that organization. I just heard about that. There are many, many things that we're gonna that need to be brought to you for 2 weeks from now, so you can decide what you want to do. So we're gonna have much more information. Those questions will be answered for the next meeting.
So that last point, that's what the Westport Weston Health District did with Easton. So Easton contracted with them for a year, and then after a year, they created the Aspetuck Health District. So
Right. So this has been done.
different types of options out there, yeah.
What we're gonna have to find out is, okay, that's a theoretical option. As a practical matter, is there someone who would take us on temporarily for a year while we figured this out? And I don't know. There's a lot that needs to be figured out in the next few weeks.
Justin, you know, basically asked it, but I mean, that's one answer I would like to know before, you know, making a commitment to back out in December. Is it just backing out, saying we're not going to be re-upping in July, but in those 6 months, be able to then negotiate, get back in there? So it would just make me feel a little more comfortable of jumping ship if I knew I wasn't going to spend $11 more per capita.
That is one of the options, and we're gonna see if understanding of that is in fact an option. And we will have that answer for you at your next meeting.
I guess I did have one follow-up, and I don't know if this is like for you or something that we're working on with Jeff, but like, so right now, we're not fully represented. So one member of the board dropped off from Southbury, and the other we haven't really heard from. Does Paul, who's, pulling the, still come back in and give us his recommendation of what he feels? I mean, we've kind of entrusted with at least one person what our Department of Health needs are.
Less than responsive.
So, but will a formal request be at least put out to ask for his input?
I have sent him an email, I communicated with him, he's not replied to the email.
And then I guess the second thing is, I mean, in the meantime, whether we group up with 3 other teams, 3 other towns, go in with a different town, or even stay where we are, a search for our second board member, so we can at least fulfill that position. Is that a goal, or is that?
Leave that in your capable
That's
hands.
up to us.
That's above my pay grade.
So I guess that's
Yeah,
more
that's-
towards,
That's up to the board if we want to put out a search. Again, what do you want to use for criteria? What are we looking for? Personally, I look at the Board of Health, the Housatonic Valley Board of Health that we have right now. I don't see any really good understanding of financials of any of the board members. There has been an email communications that states that their budget has a built-in profit. No, a 501c3 or a nonprofit or a governmental agency is not supposed to be building profit into their budgets. So I'm not so sure anybody truly understands the budgeting process or what is fair to everybody. I think anybody in the room here has expressed at one time or another what they think is not been exactly fair and the cost. Again, I've talked at length with different people, and there's parts like, okay, somebody's always looking to save money, but we've also always said, if there's value in doing something that's more expensive, from building a bridge instead of a culvert to buying a better piece of equipment that's going to, whatever it is, instead of a 20-year shingle, we put on 35-year shingles. We've always been willing to look at the long-term cost. It's a struggle, but I truly believe part of our basic responsibility as a government is health and safety of the people. This is a health issue, and I'm looking, what are we going to get for our money? And talking with John, so what if it's $2 per person more for another health district? $40,000 in our budget.
is what we're talking about here is the financial side of it and the budget side of it, and what we all like to talk about, and making sure that we're not raising taxes. But at the end of the day, we're providing a service. What is that service? So
Correct.
we depend on 2 board members to give us feedback, and quite honestly, we're trying to fix something and we don't even have a say in right now, because one is not responsive and the other position's not filled. So are we kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, or is there a way to recall the current board member so that we can get 2 board members that are at least responsive and trying to get some of these answers for us?
Their term goes to 2024. I think you would have to ask for their resignation. Recalling them, I'm not sure if we can do that, or if we want to do that, because there's a term. The other board member that was on there chose to resign, and, because I don't think we were that well represented here. My concern is, how long is this going to keep going, and what other troubles are there going to come with the Housatonic Valley Health District? One
But
of the
right now,
things-
being underrepresented or not being represented, we have no say in any of it. Where, I guess my mind is, should we be thinking about fixing the problem or rebuilding a new system, which is gonna cost us more money than we've already lost by moving over there? So I'm just, would it be better to use those 6 months to go from December 31st to June 1st, or whatever the date is, to fix the problem, get 2 board members there that are representing us, maybe medically and financially, and then work with Oxford and the other towns that are, kind of thinking our same process. We should have 5 votes to 9 votes, 5 votes to 4 votes, to be able to work that system to our benefit and to get what we need out of it. We're a big piece of that pie, and so we shouldn't have to take our piece and go somewhere else. We should be able to fix it.
There's not been meetings scheduled, you would think, during these times where obvious a few municipalities, 3 of the original municipalities don't seem to be very happy, that they would be having meetings and meeting with us to discuss what it would take. That's not happening.
Right. I mean, clearly, their meetings, I mean, at the health department were April, May, I think August, September, and November 7th, and they only have 1 minutes posted on June 6th. So, I mean, if they're not doing what they need to be doing, I mean, clearly it's kind of evident. And so there should be, I would think, grounds for recalling our representative, putting 2 representatives in there that will do what we need them to do. And then hopefully the other towns would follow suit and say, oh, there is something we can do.
I'm surprised the other representatives don't call for meetings to get and sit down to discuss with all the municipalities of what it would take to make this work. And so far, none of them, to my knowledge, are willing to do that.
And if,
To,
John, over the past 9 months, Jeff has worked with other, his counterparts in these other communities to prevail upon their representatives to look at our requested amendment to the budget. And it isn't happening. Why? We don't know. Is it politics? Is it, who knows what it is?
Right.
But for whatever reason, for the last 9 months, they have, all we have heard from them, from the leadership over there, is no. We don't agree with any of your recommendations. This is our budget. So, yeah, it'd be nice if we could get the people
Yeah.
that represent the 3 towns that feel aggrieved to bring pressure to bear, but it isn't happening.
Right. But if the other 2 towns with like 1 vote or 2 votes each, don't feel like they can really move the wheel, but we have some strength that we, are a big piece of that pie, whereas if we had 2 members representing us, so I guess my thought would be is they're clearly not doing their job. I mean, just looking at posting minutes of their meetings. So if there was a way to recall them, or at least indicate our dissatisfaction, and they're not, there's got to be a way to fix it. We can't just say, well, he's ignoring us and not doing anything, and he's going to sit there until 2024, so we're going to spend $11 per capita to fix something because there's somebody who's not doing a task. I'm thinking that we need to, and I'm not pointing it at you, I think it's us as a board needs to figure out how to get our representation there, take the lead, be a leader in the health department with our 2 board seats, and then, lead with that representation to help have others hopefully follow us.
if I may, without getting into the content of our executive session, the 2 representatives did already express their opinions on what they thought we should do, but were unable to share much information with us. And that information flow has been problematic for many months. And even if those folks were to be more engaged. I guess I see an irreparable breakdown of communication here, and I don't know that, I feel like they've answered the question we asked of them months ago. They gave us an opinion. Whether that's what we decide to do or not, that ultimately becomes ours.
John,
So,
you were,
I was gonna share with John that the Board of Finance thought that we should do that.
Mhm.
We talked about that.
I mean, put in two finance people for 6 months just to get it fixed.
And Jeff found out from the town attorney that our representatives had terms, and there's no, I understand there's no statutory provision to remove them. I guess you can impeach them somehow, somewhere in the statutes, there must be something, but they haven't done anything, I guess, so bad.
Right.
Other than
Well-
not what the budget people think they should do.
Yeah.
That's just a disagreement about economics, so,
Well, I'm thinking the one thing they did bad so far is that there's no minutes. I don't even know if he was at a meeting.
So I don't,
You know what I mean?
I don't think they're not posting minutes. I think they're not having meetings. If you look at if you look at the website, it shows canceled meetings and rescheduled meetings. So that's a whole nother issue. They have meetings scheduled and whatnot, they're not having them. I don't think there are minutes, because I don't think there's meetings, which is a whole nother level of problem there. I think what we should do with our one remaining member, my personal opinion, is our board should send a formal notice to him to request him to be at our next meeting. We can meet with him again in executive session, or not. And if we're not satisfied, we can ask him for his resignation. But, I think we should send that request, have him come here and make a determination, and see what's been going on. Maybe all this great stuff's been going on, we just don't know about it. Doubtful, but I think we should do that with that member, and then maybe get further opinions on how the removal process works. I'm not aware of
Any unfortunate
a
task,
board, but the other thing I do think we should do, the other point is, I do think we should appoint someone to the other position. I think it should be a fiscal person, someone with a fiscal background, probably someone from our Board of Finance, to at least fill that role, in the interim.
so if you remember, Dr. Nee was supposed to come back to us with communications about the improved services that we were going to get. There's been no communication, no indication, no request to come back. I'll bring that over to you. It's just been silent. And that's frustrating. I'm not going to kid you. It's frustrating because this community expects me, regardless of whether it's this legislative body, I'm only one vote in this cog here, but it's going to come down to me about providing these services or making sure it's done right. And am I frustrated because they're not coming back like they said they were? They're not responding to an email that was sent. A request for information went out from our Dan Colton, not been responded to. So, I mean, not that we expect we are the most important group, but we are 20,000 people in this health department. If I call or Dan Colton calls, you'd think we'd get a response within a period of time. And we're not. And my question, my angst goes to how much work and what would it take, time-wise and effort-wise, along with all the other things that have to be done, pool, PD, all this stuff, to also get this organization, let's say we were to get 2 representatives, we were to start doing that process. And how much effort would it take and where would we get? And the problem is we are running out of time in December to make notice. And I frankly feel that we've been kind of delayed, figuring December 31st is going to come around and that will give us another year. I honestly believe that. So the frustration is,
I guess my frustration is just that if we take what we're doing now and just move it forward to another health department or a subcontractor or our own, who are our two board members? Who are our people who are going to represent, who are going to show us how to build a health department? You know, so I'm just, the specification or the toolbox of how this actually works. You know, so far we're just talking about money and not being responsive and not knowing how to fix it. But what's our plan, you know, if we do pull that trigger? So who's our, you know, 2 or 3 doctors or representatives that are of that mindset of how a health department works? I guess that's why I'm just looking to see, you know, if we had that one person to replace Richard Hunter, and then, you know, send that formal letter to.
I would ask there would be 2 different, the way it works is up to 10,000 people, you get 1 second, up to 20,000, you get 2. So that's just statutory, you have to do that. So we would get 2 representatives if it was a board. If we were contracting, we wouldn't get representation. I argue we don't have representation now.
Mm-hmm.
But if we joined another health district, we would get 2 votes. My hope is that the people on the boards of these health districts that are running well, that they have the understanding and would be talking with our people to, you know, I think they'd have a better financial build-out. I think they would have, I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't do programs. They would know what we need.
I'm just saying, we kind of thought that when we got into where we are now. So, you know, are we jumping from one pot to another pot, or?
Well, again, you
But
can always.
so my number one question is just, how do we communicate with Dr. Nee that, like?
Send an email and wait for a response.
Right, so, well, so, you know, so there's got to be a formal process, right? That if he's not responsive, that, you know, then we get to have a vote to recalls him and replaces him.
I think
You know,
that's,
so I'm just like, what's the
But-
task?
I think that's what John was getting at, is that they're, aside from an actual impeachment process, and is there grounds for an impeachment, we don't have we don't have a method to remove him from this role. So there is one vacancy, but the other one is occupied, and this board has not been empowered to remove that individual as it is right now. My question, though, is, does Dr. Neeb's assignment, does that apply to the existing health district? And would that term, let's say we called for him to resign, and let's say he chose not to resign, does his assignment carry to a new health district, or does it terminate when we're no longer a part of this one?
I believe if we were to go to a different health district, we would appoint our people to the new health district. Their job on the board because that's the board of directors for the Housatonic Valley.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different board of directors for different,
So we appointed them to that when this change happened, or they just follow, I thought they just followed suit.
no, it was the Pomperaug Health District, so it was not, New Milford joined, Washington joined, they appointed their people. Our people were all already in place. This is all part of what they did, and all they did was change the name of the name, so we were stuck with what we had.
I'm
no.
I'm thinking, right, the way you change a company, if it's not working well, is you fix the board, right?
Government, sometimes the rules aren't the same.
So, again, my concern is, you know, what's this gonna cost us? What's this gonna cost us? How much is this gonna cost us? Then you get into, are we getting our permits done? Are they doing the online permitting that they're supposed to be? You know, we have online permitting, which is, my understanding is, they're not using our online permitting, they're faxing over for us to do. They should be doing the online permitting as another department. All these things come in, it's like, okay, so what's this truly costing us? And I know that Woodbury was waiting for a permit for the Lions Club to do their hayride or whatever, and it's a significant organization in Woodbury. They were waiting to the very last minute. I will tell you this, I don't know if I should say it publicly, but we opened up the pool, and they weren't doing the permit for the public pool. I said, open up the pool anyway. Open the pool. Because why isn't this being responded to as a 20,000 member, almost 20,000 member group and one of the founders of the original health district? Not that we should get more, but we should at least be, they should be tentative to our needs.
So I guess, one last just thought out, if we're gonna be, we're there until July 1st, whatever that date is, and we're just looking to fix it, get involved, get some answers, just see what's going on, just ask for a volunteer from the Board of Finance or whoever, building department, somebody who can sit in there and just face it from a nuts and bolts perspective than a, healthcare, it's
So-
providing us. But get somebody in there that knows, that can at least say, yeah, they haven't met. Yeah, they don't do meetings. They don't, but
So I
get
will
somebody
say-
who's gonna at least participate in the board.
And without saying who it was, I asked some financial person from the Board of Finance if they would be interested, because I figure it took that level to straighten this out. And they laughed at me. They said, no, I want nothing to do with it. Because how are you gonna get anything done? If you wanna start a new health district, happy to get that structured. This, no. So my problem is, how are you, are we gonna, you're asking a professional, you're gonna have to ask someone who knows what they're doing to go in there, look it over, and get it straightened out.
Or you just need somebody who's gonna be your eyes and ears.
But you have our own representative that seldom responds. You have Woodbury's representative who's the chair, who's not calling meetings, and you,
I'm just saying, you gotta send somebody who's gonna sit there and at least report back to
So,
what's going on there.
I know
Right
the
now, we
people
don't
who
even
can
know
do
if they
these
had a
things,
meeting.
they don't want to waste their time. You want to get it done, we'll get it done. But I can't go into an organization that's, so that's another problem is, okay, are we going to go ask the Board of Finance if anybody from the Board of Finance would be willing to be on this, on here?
I don't know that we could, because the Ethics Committee,
Yeah, there's,
Board of Finance members cannot serve as voting members on any organization that would bring a motion to the Board of Finance. I'm pretty sure that's what it
I'll check
says.
that.
So we can't,
That's certainly the case for a town board.
the town board.
This is a regional board, so it's not a town entity. Let's look at that, yeah.
If we can. 'Cause
But if you
some-
can, do you think you could poll the Board of Finance and find a
I mean, at the
friendly
end,
face?
right. At the end of the year, at the end of the day, we're reinventing the wheel because we don't want to go over there and just sit at that board table at least and find out what's going on.
yeah, I mean.
I think we have an
mean,
opportunity.
And
It
again,
can be somebody, yeah.
any one of us can go to their board meeting. If they were, send a notice that we're having a meeting to the CEOs of the town, I would think that would be respectful, an email, or, and holding the meeting. And like Jason said, they're not, I don't know if they're holding meetings. And I personally think it's, trying to be
Let's go.
nice, but I personally think that they're waiting till after, they're hoping to get past December 31st.
So I think we also have this outstanding concern that there is a huge problem with the information that was presented to us a year ago in this room about what would happen with the health district versus what actually happened with the health district, what was portrayed as just a name change. And then we also have this outstanding issue of what the contributions would be. I don't see how that can be corrected at this point. They've already signed a contract with New Milford. We pushed on our representatives to rectify that issue, could not be rectified because it was quite frankly out of their hands. I think we've referred to this as a hostile takeover of our health district, and essentially we have 3 towns that built something together, and it migrated away from us, and we have absolutely no capacity to take it back. It is essentially relocated. Our health district relocated away from us, and we don't have a vehicle to bring it back here. So what do we do with that? I mean, we were told it was staying in Southbury. We were told a lot of things in this room a year ago. But at the end of the day, even if we had 2 board members see it, which, and I would agree that if we can get somebody to be there and do that, I'm totally on board. I think it would be wonderful to have somebody at least report back to us on what's going on. But do I think that that person would be empowered at this point in time to fix it? I would like to say that think that they would, but I don't. I think there is some damage here that I don't see how we could rectify with the current administration of the district and how that migrated away and bringing that back in a timely manner that people get services. Especially as, we head into July and kids are going to camp and all of the things that the health district participates in at that time of year. I cannot imagine a situation where somebody new coming in is able to fix all of the issues that have come up over the last year and bring this back.
And I think one of the other things we were told, they were going to hire on more sanitarians. And I'm not sure if they did, because I'm hearing that Joe, who's always been there, is traveling from Oxford up to New Milford to do inspections. So, there's no report has come to us to say, this is the thing, this is what we told you, this is what we said would enhance the district, this is going to make it better. And if Dr. Nee could come here and say, let me present to you what we've done so far to keep this district together. I think what they're expecting is that we're just going to get through December 31st. They're going to flounder for another year and figure out what they're doing. Again, in the meantime, where are we going to be at? And what options, and December 31st is the drop dead date on that. The other thing is,
Well, I just want to, what we're saying is December 31st is the notice date. The drop dead date of when we have to know where we're going to be is July 1st.
the notification date is December 31st. We have to, December 31st, notify them or not.
Right.
I think the proper way to say it is, we will be with the Housatonic Valley Health District for the year 23-24, unless we tell them by December 31st, we're out.
Mhm. Right, and then when we say we're out, we have 6 months to get in somewhere.
We believe that we just found out that might be an option about 3 hours ago. So we've got to find out, in fact, if there's an option of, we're out, 2 months later, we say, well, no, we're not. We don't know how that works. It could be an option, we will find out for you.
And we also need to know, I mean, there's the option of contracting, which I'm not saying it's for sure, but I'm pretty sure somebody will contract with you. The second thing is, if you did go, let's say you were to go to it, we were to go to another health department. Again, if for some reason it doesn't seem to be working out, if it's not turning out to be a good situation, you can notify them before December 31st that we're going to be out and do something different. The problem with this is, we know we have something here that's a problem. And the problem is, they kind of brought us along to a point where, the reason I come to that conclusion is, I went to Lisa Morrissey and said, a couple days before we had, it was a couple days or you were stuck with this. Went in room 208, met with her and Dan Copeland, and I said, we got to put the brakes on this. We got to figure this out better and take a look at it. We need to put the brakes on. And her words to me were, tough, you have 2 days. And Dan Copeland was in the room. I think we're to a point now, is what they're hoping is tough, December 31st.
John, for me personally, I don't want to deal with these people. They're not people I would deal with in any
Yeah.
way. So,
I mean, we've been good, solid partners with this health district from the very beginning. Formed it, started it, brought others
Well, when we
in.
formed it, and that's what I'm getting at, I mean, we formed it, we built it, it's ours, it got taken away, and there's a couple people, that are now controlling it. So I think the question I'm asking is, do you kind of fight back and get it back? And, get our representation there, recover and save our money that we had in there already? Or do we lose that money and have to spend more money to get it
I've been
fixed?
involved with Jeff and members of the 2 other towns,
Mhm.
Oxford, over the last 9 months. And Jeff has tried mightily to do exactly that. But for whatever reason, the other towns are not in for the fight for some reason. I don't know.
Right, but we're not in for the fight either, because we haven't called back knee and we haven't set a new board member up there. I'm not saying that's your, we're not fighting to keep it, we're looking to change. That's the way I'm hearing it.
John, if you don't mind my asking, what would these 2 folks be able to do at this point in time, since these contracts have already been signed with other towns? Like, what would you anticipate that they are now empowered to do if we sent 2 new people, assuming that Dr. Nee would resign, which we don't know if he would? Let's say we had 1. What action could they take at this point that you would like them to take that would fix this?
Well, once you had communication that the board is working there for us, let's say now you have our 2 in there that are taking the lead, and Southbury and Woodbury following suit, then you're basically, maybe you're bringing back home base back to Southbury, back to the offices where they were. Maybe you're getting those services that we anticipated that we're finding that we're not getting because we're having people putting in permits that aren't getting timely responses. To get that control of the actual services part back in-house.
But New Milford has 2 board seats, and we would have 2.
No, New Milford has 3.
That's right, 3 board seats, and we're 2. We don't have the.
Well, between the 3 of us who were here originally and brought in, what we did is we had 5 seats, if you want to say, and we brought in, it's 9 total now, we brought 4 more seats. And the 4 seats took over the communication and the strength of the 5 seats that were there. So we went from 5 seats to 9 seats, and the 4 seats are controlling.
John,
So there's something wrong in the math of,
Well, the chair went with the minority. That's the long and short.
The chair is
She's
in
not on our team
Woodbury, and
anymore.
the chair is not calling the meetings and not doing any. So the chair is important, but the chair sits with Woodbury, but that's 3, New Milford, Washington, and Woodbury.
John, let me say it again, maybe a different way. The older I get, the less clear I get when I speak. I've been in meetings with Jeff and the other town leaders who, quote, have appointed board members
Yep.
to the health district over which they have 0 control. Those are independent people, they do whatever they want. So these selectmen have been unable, let's just say unable, I don't know about that, unable, as far as we can see, to get their members to take on the leader of the district and the 4 other seats. So,
right.
even if we had 2 champions on our side, it would be 2 to 7. For some reason,
Well, so what I'm suggesting, and I mean, for it to work, I'm suggesting that when we have 2 board members who are fighting the cause, working towards a goal, a common goal, and they could then, entice the other 2 members to start working with them. But right now, the easy way out is to just, work with the 4 folks from New Milford. So I'm just thinking if you had 2 strong players who were working at, making an impact on the board, then the other outliers would gravitate towards them versus gravitating towards the 4.
wishful, in my judgment,
Yep.
wishful thinking, I would hope that would be the.
Right. You got 6 months to make that happen.
Well, we'll see. I think we're talking in a lot of circles, and we're not going to solve this issue tonight, nor should we. We don't have all the information, but I think it's important that we do invite Dr. Nee to our next meeting. I think it's important, Jeff, if you would, to get our town attorney here next time so we can ask him questions directly. And not for nothing, we have state representatives that represent multiple towns in this district. What are they doing for us? the district's regulated by the state. Why doesn't our senator reach out and find out what the hell's going on up there?
Well, again, then I get into the how much and
Hear
effort.
you. You spent a
You know,
lot of
you-
time, you're getting nowhere, but we do have people in Hartford that represent not just us, but Woodbury and
So
Washington.
I called the lieutenant governor, and she picked up my phone. She picked up my phone on the third ring, and I respect her for that, and gave me the number of the Commissioner of Public Health. And yes, her cell phone, and did answer the phone, who then sent me to one of her people and said, it's the district, it's their business. You have representatives, that's how it is. So what do we expect our state senator or state representative to do? It's similar to, what if we had board members, Board of Education members, they're on the Board of Education. You can't recall them. You can't tell them what to do. We talk to them and everything. I mean, our board is responsive. This group is not. And I've sat here in this room with the CEOs of all the towns, presented John's original proposal, and that's okay. They looked at it, and if they could dispute those numbers, John Michaels is wrong, those numbers don't work, and let me show you why. They can't do that. So what they do is say, that's not, no, sorry. We'll talk to you again when you want. What's your proposal? This is what we're saying would work. And they're saying, not good enough for us. So show me what you think. Oh, but I'll tell you what I think we could do. Something as simple as equalizing the fees to our businesses and our communities that started this health district. Sorry, getting a little agitated. Started it. And we're paying higher fees.
Jeff, my dad was on the committee. He hired Neil. I mean, trust me, I know.
So
I mean, we're giving up equity in real estate. We're giving up Joe Cometz. I mean, this is not what we want.
it's just as simple
but,
as they could
you know,
say,
It is what it is.
let's vote, let's take a vote amongst the board of directors to equalize those fees. And that at least would be a step. Okay, you've done that much, you're hearing us. Instead, it's, no, it's a graduate over time, and it's going to get to that anyway.
But so, and you mentioned, how much time are we talking about? Like, so we're already a year into this mess. And is it another year or 2 years? When does that equalization occur? That this $11 we're gonna be spending, I mean,
don't have
Who knows? They haven't met since June.
That's-
I mean,
that's-
you know,
so-
that's the problem.
When we last met with them, my understanding was they were going to meet.
They were.
The board was going to meet, we were going to get this information. I thought the fees thing was the easy part. The rest of the budget stuff is not easy, right? But the fees thing's easy. And they haven't given us that information. Like, that was like one of the main things we wanted. Like, what are the fees, and when is it changing, and how's it going to work? And
Gotcha.
it's not on their, at least the last time I checked, I didn't see it on their website.
No, they met in June. It was a bullet point. They mentioned it, and they haven't met since, according to their website. So, I mean, you know.
So it's obviously not important to them what we are having concerns with.
Yeah.
And Dr. Nee is obviously not saying, you need to have a meeting about these and discussions. Let's bring the CEOs in and let's see if this will help. Nothing.
To your enduring point, there are 7 board members there who have decided we're going to do what the Director of Health wants, period. That's the budget. We could have 2 supermen there with 2 votes out of 9.
It's not gonna get
Wouldn't make
anywhere.
any difference, in my judgment.
Oh,
Wouldn't make
yeah.
any difference.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because they made it very clear that what we want, okay, which we presented for selectmen, because the board members weren't engaged for whatever reason.
right.
Those 7 said no.
No, I hear what you're saying. What I'm just saying, if the 7 of them follow the leader, and then there's 2 new ones that get put in there that don't follow the leader, can they get the other ones to turn with them? That's, you're not gonna know
Not when
unless you
you're,
try it.
especially not when you're chair,
And the chair is one of the 7.
one of the 7. That's a hard, they just don't call the meetings.
Okay, you guys have done with this one?
I guess just one thing to keep in mind for the future is, we might have an interim period where we work with a temporary district, but assuming that eventually, at some point in time, we will want to rebuild, how do we put safeguards in place so this can never happen again? And that's probably a question for the town attorney, is what can be done differently that if a founding member of a district were to opt out, that any surplus and assets that they're made whole for it, because I think that's a pain point that I struggle with, is that the people of the town of Southbury, as well as the towns of the other towns, they built this, and it left us, and that's a shame, and how do we stop that from happening in the future when it is time to rebuild?
I think we would have to have the attorney.
It may not be possible.
May
I mean,
not be
look, it worked for
possible.
30 years, right? And then,
I thought about this, and I have bylaws in my mind drafted on how to address your question.
Yes,
The question is, could those bylaws get passed
yeah,
by an organization that you're joining?
right, but if we started fresh,
So, it's a different government, and so how do we force a different government to run the way we think they should run?
right,
And that's tough.
Essentially, they could get a group in to change the bylaws, and the bylaws have been changed.
If you change the bylaws, you can do it. How do you change them?
The only other way you could do that is if you
Start
own the
your own.
real estate, if the town owned the real estate and rented to the health district, then if this went bad, you would just continue to rent to the health district and hold the asset.
right.
But in good faith. All right?
Very good.
So there'll be some more meetings, and we will talk about, and we will see what happens at the next meeting. I will, for the public record, say that no matter what happens, we will continue to give healthcare options to the community. One of the biggest of which was, we had a very big pandemic. The Pumperog Health District vaccinated a lot of people. The good news is we have a number of pharmacies in town that give out flu, COVID. They do other vaccinations and vaccines. They bill your health insurance, just like the health department does. They too bill your health insurance. So it's not like, I think, the old days where you depended on the health department to give you all those shots. There's still going to be that out there.
a lot of options.
All right. Anything else on that? Next up, town pool discussion. We've met, we're working, Dan, Colton, John, a group of us. We are engaged with the people to come up with the questionnaires,
Survey people.
And I think the way it looks now, we'll get that done. And we will, looks like we'll hit the timelines to get it onto the, hopefully you should be able to make it onto the, during the budget vote referendum. We should be able to have a question on the referendum. So we'll, I think in the next, what was it, week or two, we should have, when do we?
Timeline calls for the
Some Tuesday,
the
right?
questions, the questionnaire to be finished by the end of next week.
Yeah, okay.
We're on timeline to
Will it be, we talked about this at the outset, will that questionnaire be presented to us to review before it goes out to the public?
We can send it to the board. I don't, yeah, we should be able to do that.
I think it might be good if I don't want any issues 6 months from now about, oh, we should have asked it this way or should have asked a different question or anything like that. So I think if the representative body sends it out, it's
So-
based on your recommendation, like your committee might recommendation, and then if we send out the questions, I think it might.
there's a working group which has 2 members of the Board of Selectmen on it. so there is some representation from the Board of Selectmen. We are using a professional survey firm who has done dozens and dozens and dozens of these surveys. And they are telling us that the questionnaire will be devised so that it's a statistically valid sample, so that there is a 90, they said 6% chance that the survey results will fall within 5% of accuracy. So this questionnaire needs to be simple, comprehensive, and Dan and their people are working today and tomorrow on that. There's supposed to be a draft of the questionnaire by the end of the day tomorrow. There's supposed to be a working group meeting next Tuesday to work with the people, to talk about it, to make sure that we're not asking the wrong questions, we're asking the right questions, that it's not too long, et cetera. And it gets to what you need to find out is, what is the will of the people to have a pool, and if so, what kind of pool? And how much are they willing to pay? So
So to that point, I think we need to be careful. I personally don't think it's right for the board, or for me, or for Justin, or anyone else, to come up or change or do or approve a question, because these are professionals at these surveys, and they know how to ask these questions. They know not to make leading questions, which unfortunately, I mean, it's not on purpose, but we're amateurs.
Right.
So I don't know if it's really going to accomplish, to say, can the board approve the questions? If you disapprove of the questions, what are you looking for? And for the timeline to work, to get it on the referendum, the question, you got to go in and then meet with them, and they may say, yeah, if you want us to ask that question, we will ask that question, but you really shouldn't ask that question that way, because these are people who, I mean, they do large, I think they did something for Boulder, Colorado, this is not some, they know what they're doing. And even the length of questions, they're gonna give us a number and then shrink it down to a number that can be.
let me answer Jason's question a different way. In our first meeting with them, your exact point was brought up. How are we gonna make sure that we ask the right kind of questions to get the right kind of information, so the Board of Selectmen will be able to consider options and make a recommendation? Make sure you develop for us the right questions. So I think we're trying to get to exactly what you want.
The good news is,
So
what they did say was, because we had done the Silver Petroselli numbers and got estimates and good, better, best, and they said, you are far ahead of what most communities, what we need to develop it. This is why it's gonna move this quickly, right, Justin?
They were very pleased to how far down the road we were, so.
And not wasting that's why they're gonna be able to produce this as quick as they're able to.
Yeah, no, they're gonna give us questions, like you said, tomorrow?
noon tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
I guess maybe to ask it a little different, is the list of questions they're gonna have and the format of it, are they giving us back what they're trying to achieve by that question, so that we know that it's gonna meet our goals of what we're looking to actually put in
We
our
already told them
toolbox?
what goals we're looking for,
Right.
right,
So-
Justin? I mean, you can ask Justin, it was what goal, we're looking for certain goals, and they're gonna do those questions for those goals.
So I guess what I'm asking is, not that it's approved by us, but just to get the survey and the questions and how they thought those two are merging, so that we can just take a look at it and say, okay, cool, that makes a lot of sense, and that we can just feel good about what's going out there.
I think the best thing is to talk to Justin when you can talk to Justin. You don't have to have a meeting here, just,
as a member of the working group, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't share with a member of the Board of
Right.
Selectmen
Right.
because it's gonna go out to the public anyway, you're just gonna get to see it 3 weeks early. And if you have comments and concerns, by the day after we give them, they're available to you, because there's a timeline. And you can call Dan will work with Bonnie and say, if you have a concern, what about this?
Right.
And they'll say yes, no, or whatever, and they will address the concern, and it'll be taken care of.
I think you can communicate with Justin as soon as he has them, and I can
Right.
communicate with my people, and
I think what John outlined is a good approach.
Yeah.
Send it,
As
send
soon
that,
as
and
we
we
get
can,
questions.
someone has an
you
issue, they
guys
can
have
respond.
a question, call Dan. Say,
Right.
what about this? What about that?
But, and I'm just so I know what to expect, will the questions be matched to what the goal of that question is? Just so that we kind of,
Once again,
will the question as being asked in the survey be matched to a goal of what we're trying to accomplish by asking that? Just so that we know what, like, why are you even asking that
I
question?
don't want to mislead you about the goals. When we
Mhm.
say we told them the goals, I'll tell you what we told them. We said, look, we have 5 options in this community. Board of Selectmen has to pick one question out of all these 5 options to ask on a ballot, and they do this professionally.
Mhm.
One option, no pool. Second option, if it's available, Edgewood. Third option, fourth and fifth option, good, better, best. And then a sixth option, maybe something in between, because there are 3 or 4 key add-ons, like 2 extra lanes in the pool, a heated pool, snack shack. There's a bunch of things in best that maybe nobody wants a snack shack. So the goal is to give you information so that you will know what the survey says the community feels about these 5 options. No pool, Bridgewater, good, better, best, and then maybe
Some à la
So
carte.
that's the goal.
Yep.
And those are some of the questions we asked them, John.
Cool.
How do we get to, is the heater important? You know, and so they're aware of our concerns and our goals, which is to find out what are the options that are most important and what is the town, willing to spend.
Cool.
So,
yeah, it's not just what if they want 2 lanes, but the 2 lanes cost,
right.
Are
We-
you-
We said
are-
we want people to be aware of what the cost implications are of these decisions.
There'll
So,
be an economic impact on virtually every question.
Is it built in,
No, go ahead.
Is it built into your schedule process that once this all comes back, right? So the survey results come back and you have all this information, there needs to be a period of time for then the boards to determine what the pool's gonna look like and then get estimates. So it can go out to referendum with a
You have
fair.
economic estimates already.
We do for those options, but I have a feeling what we're gonna end up with as a project that we might be interested in sending the referendum isn't gonna be any of those 3 options. It's gonna be some combination of
That's-
different things.
Yes, and we took care of that because there are 5 key elements that, there's some option, someone may dream up that no one's even thought of yet. We're not talking about that.
Right.
In the best, there are 5 options. There are 4 things that are unique. There's a heated pool, there's a splash pad, there's
stadium seating,
Stadium seating, is that?
stadium seating,
a stadium seating.
and 8 lanes.
Snack
a-
shack.
and snack shack.
I might have some opinions on that even without the
And
survey.
we have,
Oh, I do too.
and we've divined from the architect's work what those things will cost. So you will know what the sense, and it's not gonna be 100% on anything, trust me.
Yeah.
You will know which way the community is leading on the 5 basic options and the 5 key drivers that are unique.
Got it.
And then you'll get to decide, okay, well, we think the community wants to do the middle one, but they want to add these 2. Or they want to do the final one, but drop these 3, or whatever. So you'll have those options.
Okay.
Question, whether Justin or John, do any of the questions suggest that there's an option to put a splash pad where the pool currently is? Let's say they went with one of the option for, let's say there was suddenly an appetite to purchase Edgewood, but Ballantyne could then become a splash pad, so it's still usable. Is there any way that the community could know that there's a way to be creative in that respect? Probably hard, how would you get to that? I mean, just,
Short answer is no. The short answer on that is no.
yeah, okay. I know,
And we do also have the splash pad in our ARPA money already.
right, we do.
So, that'll be interesting to see what the numbers come back on that and how to handle that. But again, we're gonna get the numbers and we're gonna make a voted on decision as a group about what to send to referendum.
We have a printed timeline, it's got dates, who's responsible for what,
Nice,
what needs to be done, and it flows down and gets the question on the ballot at the referendum. Looks all the lawyers and your consideration of getting the results of this thing and figuring out what simple questions
Right.
you want to ask. So you'll have a lot of information.
right.
Betsy, could you just make a note for tomorrow or Monday to get that timeline and get it out, just get it out to the board? Kind of what we're looking at. I don't know if Justin has it, you can,
I don't have it here, no.
yeah. They were happy, we were surprised that they could hit the timelines. They were like, ah, that's not a problem. I'm like,
We
well,
had a timeline that fit our needs, and then we said, okay, can you give us the answer by this? Here's today, by then we want your report. And she said, sure.
Yeah,
I don't want to say we're jumping up and down, but
close,
pretty close.
close.
So, you'll get the questionnaire as soon as we do, and you gotta get back to Dan right away with concerns.
Or at least an explanation on that. I don't, yeah, tweaking a professional's,
Yeah, the professionals are doing this, guys.
No, I don't see our role as drafting questions or rewriting
Yeah.
things, but we might look at it and say, oh, what about this topic? And then you'll say, oh, yeah, we addressed that, and this is why it's not there, or, oh, yeah, maybe that should, it's just, just that sort of stuff.
all right?
Or even when we get a copy of it, just to feel real warm and fuzzy about it and feel really good about it, be able to promote it and talk about that it's coming down the pike.
That's
and get
part of
people
the
excited about
timeline,
it.
actually, is some information sessions here for the people of Southbury, so they understand that they may get a phone call and what it's all about.
And including, it'll get out there.
Yeah.
It's all laid out.
They're also gonna draft a thing called a communications plan about what documents or what things should you get out to who and by how to get the word out about what's going on.
Pretty pleased. All right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John. Sorry to keep you so late.
John's gonna run out of here before,
First Selectmen's report. We've got, you saw the collapse bridge. There's just, we're gonna have to live with the alternating one-way traffic. The crews got out there and got it braced up. It is one in the cycle we're looking for, but we can't, right now with the weather, we can't open that, we can't do the work now this time of year anyway to get that done.
This is Purchase Brook, Jeff?
Yeah, yeah. But it is what it is. Anybody have any questions tonight? Reports from liaisons, Selectman Betty?
None of my groups have met since our last meeting. A couple of them are meeting next week.
Jason?
EMS met last week. It was a fairly short meeting. They received reports from one of the providers. They were having some communication issues and getting monthly reports from another, so you may be hearing about that from Tim. And then the big thing that was talked about is there's going to be a little bit of a membership shakeup. The chairman's going to be resigning. He's been on the board, I think he's been on like 4 years now. So everyone saw a notice went out to the town a couple days ago asking for volunteers to serve on the EMS. I understand a couple of people have responded to that because there's going to be a couple of openings. There's going to be that seat I mentioned. There's one other, and there's currently an alternate vacancy. So by January, the hope is to get it back up to a full complement to start the new year. LEPC meets next week. Library hasn't met, and the other thing that we're trying to get going is the police study group, and we're looking at hopefully a date next week for an initial, like, organizational meeting.
John?
So the Conservation Commission met Tuesday. A few things they're working on. One is creating their budget for next year and getting that into the budget conversation. They had a great meeting with some state representatives, the Watershed Coalition, about the stabilization of the riverbank. Some of the conversations about what we, had done in the past as far as putting riprap in place and building walls or holding dirt back. Some of the mindset now is that you actually create floodplains. And it started relating back to the conversations we've had with DPW as far as cleaning out silt basins and basins where water can stay and sit and then mitigate out as the floods, recede. So along the Pomperog, some of that mindset of instead of building walls and keeping land up high where it needs to be, is actually carving it out a little bit, creating spaces where the floodwaters can reside, stay, and then mitigate out. So there were some pretty interesting conversation as far as, flood prevention and stabilization, which is a little bit deeper into what they've gotten into in the past. It was a pretty exciting conversation. Dealing with, again, DPW is helping them out. There's some paths in a couple areas on Hyman Park that had some blowdown issues, and the DPW has been very receptive in going in there and cleaning some of that up, at least make it safe. And then just some of the traditional work, cleaning up, maintaining, and taking care of the trails. Transylvania Brook Estates, they've marked out and reviewed what work the developer was doing there, so to create the space that was for the conservation spaces, and that they basically had done what they committed to doing. The stakes are there. There was some rock outcroppings that needed to be done to protect some foliage, and they were pretty impressed that the developer did as much and as good a work that they needed to do to meet their commitment. So that was pretty cool.
Nice to hear.
The Parks and Rec actually is meeting tonight over in the other building, so I'll get us an update on that in our next meeting. And then the Community Relations Task Force met last night. Couple topics that we talked a little bit about. Conversation about the holiday tree lighting, and basically had some communication with different groups that are looking to see what we can do to make that more of an inclusive celebration for other people, other traditions, to bring people in, get them excited, and to participate. So they did put together a recommendation to put out a request for the input to propose a 2023 winter celebration of lights, or a holiday tree lighting that would be more inclusive with more programming, maybe
John,
food.
could you, because could you reach out to Michael that we talked about that and get it rolling?
Sure.
The communications design, out for next year.
Yep, and that's, so I think we were gonna just get that into the minutes, get it confirmed, talk to Michael, and then present it as a recommendation to the board, and we can agree to it. And
We
so-
can make a recommendation to the board, but I can also, I will request that, Michael, that we get out some communications to the community, that we're looking for everybody to send their suggestions in, or what they may want to bring or do, how they might want to be included in the tree lighting and the winter, and even the spring, whatever, get some suggestions on what we might do from the community.
Gotcha. And I know we talked about it last night as far as, just forward that on to Michael, or do you want me to make a motion now to put that recommendation in? Wanna do
I
it
don't think we need
formally, or
I mean, I don't know if we need a motion. I can just
send it along?
send it along. So, I don't think we need to.
Yeah.
But That's been the
But
recommendation. we
the
did.
request to Parks and Rec to work on the input from the public to propose a 2023 winter holiday light celebration to be all-inclusive. A second comment, or second conversation that was had was in relation to some of the public comment we heard tonight. There was some conversation feedback between the group as far as what constitutes freedom of speech, you know, some input from the first selectman that chatted with the resident trooper who indicated that there's no crime committed, but it's still not something that we want to, you know, embrace or celebrate, but it's something that's a little bit of a stain on the community and what's going on. So one of the things the task force talked a little bit about was making a commitment, I guess you would call it, or a recommendation, is that the task force would do some research, listen, learn, a little bit of investigating and feeding back, and a little bit of education on the task force so that we can then share some of that information back. I know one of the things that I'm particularly, that I volunteered to do for the board here and for the task force was to participate in the Sustainable Connecticut Equity Training class. And it was a 3-session class. The third one is coming up on the 7th, which is why I wouldn't be able to sit in on the constitutional and free speech issues of municipalities, which is held on the 7th. I think we all got an invitation to that. As I'm sitting in on this one for the equity training class, it's eye-opening. It's you know, there's a lot to be heard, a lot to be listened and learned on. So I encourage anybody who has time to sit in on the free speech issues from municipalities to listen in. Highly recommended. But the task force has made a commitment to basically learn what they can learn and see what our options are for not ignoring or putting to the side or bypassing on what is going on. But of course, we can't outlaw it or say that you can't do it, but to celebrate the good side of what's in Southbury and possibly create some outward concept of supporting what is good and what we like to support, and which would put the other things on the back burner.
John, is that, you said it was December 7th. Is it recorded, and could we listen later if we weren't available on that day? Do you know?
I don't know, I didn't see any,
See that either.
in the invitation that we got, I didn't see that it was going to be recorded. I know that most of them are, like the ones that I'm sitting in on these 3 classes, I get the slide deck. So unfortunately, what I don't get is the recording, which is,
Right.
you know, the feedback is very interesting and very informative.
Could you see if
But the
there's,
slide deck is very, very detailed. And I'll email, because I am going to ask to confirm that the task force can sit in on that, because it's not a commission or a committee. But at the same time, I'll see if it's going to be recorded so we could share it.
the webinar is probably recorded, and the libraries, it's directed towards the library more than anything, but Heather's going to be taking notes, so that should be recorded. I'm more wondering if the sustainable, what you're listening to on Sustainable Connecticut, if that's recorded.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm thinking it's not recorded, I mean, they're sending us a slide deck and all the backup material, which I'll gladly put together in a package and send it off to everybody or put it in a shared drive or something. But a lot of it is breakout groups and rooms and just a lot of communication and chatter. So that, you know, when you have 20 people and they break out into 5 rooms, it's hard. I don't think they record all that.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
But that's
know
where
the
it's just
platform.
personal conversations and open chatter, and it's some pretty interesting stuff.
Okay.
But, so I know that I think we all got an email today, just like asking where the Community Relations Task Force is, and, you know, I think it's getting some legs under it, and looking forward to being successful.
Okay. Greg's not here. Holly, Region 15?
Yeah, so Region 15 did have their meeting, their biweekly meeting on November 27th. This meeting had, first, an awesome presentation by their electric car club from the kids that are building these electric cars, really innovative, awesome stuff that they're doing. This is a pretty heavy meeting, and I encourage people who have children in the school district or are concerned about the performance to watch the presentation from Dr. Chapetta. It talks a lot about, the presentation covers a lot of the data from where we were prior to the pandemic to how the kids are performing today. And it's across the board. Different grades are up, other grades are down, and really broke that data out by whether it was math, is it, where are they struggling? And there's definitely no ignoring that, there's changes, and that kids have had struggles along the way, but, it is definitely encouraging to see how much data they've tracked along the way and how much they're paying attention, and then what their plans are to move forward with that. So it's sort of it's a heavy listen for anybody who's interested in it, but as a parent, and I guess I shouldn't always say that as a parent, but as a member of the Board of Selectmen as well, it is good to see how much due diligence is going into tracking how these kids are doing, and that they are actually measuring and tracking past histories compared to now, so that they can rectify things as we go and make sure that the kids are coming out ahead, so.
Let me go on back. I have this in front of me, and I should have mentioned it. Reval is out. People are looking at it. You're seeing some chatter. More will be coming. What's our mill rate? Well, we don't know what the mill rate is going to be. It depends on the budget. It's going to be lower, but it's certainly not going to be the same.
That doesn't necessarily mean
Overall values are up 30%, and I don't have everything, but one of the interesting things is that we had been talking, the assessor and myself, over time, is, well, how much is commercial going to drop? Because it's not unknown that commercial's taking a hit. And evidently, commercial's only down 4%. I think we were thinking, and I don't know what your thought was, Justin, but we were thinking 15 to 17%. But
Probably not enough transactions to, give meaningful data, but no, that's good to hear.
I mean, the good thing is that
Commercial's such a broad term. I mean, retail, probably doing fine, maybe it's up a little bit. Office, might be down a little bit.
right.
But
But overall, I was 30% increase in value. Reeval, if things are going up, that's a good thing for our community and our health, of our financial health of everybody, and not just, I'm not talking Southbury government financial health, I'm talking about the people who are here. This is not necessarily a bad thing, and 30% increase overall.
this is probably the first time since 2010, whatever the year was around that we revalved, that we had significant grand list growth, which usually brings significant mill rate reduction. So that was always what we had in the 80s and 90s, and it's, in my opinion, a good thing to get back to, as you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a good sign. I'm not wishing any ill will to any other community, but it'll be interesting. Our reval will not happen at the same time as everybody else's, but I drive through a lot of other, you drive through other municipalities in the daytime, you kind of wonder what's going on. So that's the good news. So there'll be a lot of questions. They'll be directed to there'll be information coming out, who the assessor. The assessor and everybody will be taking it, so.
Send an extra Christmas card to them and the appeals people.
Everybody will, yeah.
Be a
But,
busy year for the BAA.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.